Timer on. I don't have my thing for the... to change the... there we go. Do I get some reprieve in terms of the time? La verdad que estoy bastante nervioso. If somebody had asked me to that in 15 years ago, that I was going to be giving a talk on autism and dementia, I would have thought that they were completely balmy. And I say it from this perspective. I come from a very large family. I'm told there's a reflection there which affects some people. But anyway, I'm told that I come from a very large family. It's absolutely massive. My parents have 14 grandchildren. There are great-grandchildren on my wife's side in Spain, similar things. And not one of them suffers from autism. And other than my grandmother at the tail end of her life, when she died at the age of 92, she had a bit of dementia, but nobody else has had dementia. Those conditions, unfortunately, befell my eldest son, John, and my father, James, who I'll be speaking to you about today. Autism afflicts my very lovely boy, John, who you see in the picture there some years ago now. And as I'm sure many of you will remember who have been blessed with having children, the first time I laid my hands on this human being in hospital, I thought, this is the human being who has made me a dad. Never in my wildest dreams would I thought that he would never call me dad, at least not in the way that you would have expected, and at the time that you would have expected that he would have done so. And why us? Why me are the questions which my wife and I often ask ourselves. Some people say, and I'm a believer, that God sends these special children to strong parents. I'm afraid I don't quite buy that. My wife showed me an article in preparation for this talk, and I'm going to quote it to you briefly, and it says, "Let me tell you about special needs parents. God didn't choose us because he knew we were strong enough. God didn't skim over the pool of parents waiting for a child and handpick the ones who stood out the most to raise these babies, who would need extra care." And the article goes on, "Do I believe my son is God sent? Of course. I just know there was nothing special about me that made me the best candidate to be his mother." You see, my son is what is termed in the jargon rather, as non-verbal autistic. He is well and truly ensconced in the autistic spectrum disorder, so it's ASD for short. And in fact, even saying these words here and now seem surreal to me, 13 years on. One of the aspects of John is that he cannot talk. I'll qualify that slightly. If not, my younger son, Marco, who's 9, he will slap me across the face. Because he says, "No, John, Dad, it's not." People say that John cannot talk. It's just, that's not right, he says. He just talks differently. And before I move on to the language skills which are available to him, I want to say this in relation to John's siblings. What we've realized is that they have become very conscious and protective of his older brother. Although they're both younger than he, they treat him as if it was the other way around. It's quite funny and enriching, I think, to watch. Marco particularly, he's so high. John is now higher than me, and he's a very big boy, and it's quite odd when you see Marco controlling John and admonishing him for things that he may or may not be doing. And I think that has made both his siblings very special persons and stronger people. They are very much aware of the weaknesses of others, and especially if we're dealing with people with special needs. The flip side of this is that they obviously carry a burden, a psychological burden in many respects. They have a big brother who they cannot share things with. In the future, when they go to a discotheque, they won't be able to say what happened. They can't have normal conversations about what happened in school, share homework woes with him. None of that happens in my household. They can't share a joke. And one of the things which my wife and I wonder many times is whenever there's been a massive meltdown at home, and thankfully it's happening less and less often in the morning, my children, they put the uniform on and off they go and they face the day. But they carry that inside. And whilst I think they're strong individuals, I want to make a clarion call almost, on behalf of all families who have special educational needs children in their midst, that spare a thought for them. Spare a thought for the suffering and the issues that they have to deal with on a daily life, because their existence, I can tell you, is not normal, and I can say that as a parent. And I wish to quote this briefly again from the same article that Rosa showed me, which talks about this issue. And it says, "So often we as special needs parents are told that we were chosen because we were somehow stronger than other parents. But this is what I'm here to tell you. We weren't always this way. We weren't special needs parents because we are strong. We are strong because we are special needs parents." Now, let me introduce you to some, as I call it, John speak. And you need to understand that these words came late in life. When he didn't talk as you'd expect most human beings to talk within the first 2, 3, 4 years, we've had to extract these words as a result of the sheer hard work, particularly of that supermother that is my wife, and the educational system here. So, for example, dink is drink. Now, it's not any drink. Depending on the circumstances and the location, it can be a Coke, it can be an Aquarius, it can be of the lemon flavor, it can be of the orange flavor, it can be a lemonade, all of those things, right? Now, the other example is we've realized recently on Sundays when we'll get out of bed, I should be moving the pictures actually, when we get out of bed, he'll approach me in particular, because I'm normally the first one out, and he'll say, "Tmes." Now, this requires some explanation. Tmes is Thomas, who is his first cousin, 2 years his senior. He absolutely adores and loves Thomas. Thomas, he normally sees at my mother's house, su mama. And because recently we've been taking out my mother more often than not on Sundays, he's in a sort of his own logical way saying, "I want to go out today with Mama. Today is Sunday," and he's aware it's a Sunday. And the point I'm making about all of this is that you need to have the inside track. So that's John and Lucia, many years ago now. Inside track. And that he can't communicate. I'm really running out of time. He can't communicate with you, and you wouldn't understand what he's saying. And then this gives rise to another issue, that we don't know, for example, and it's a concern that Rosa and I normally talk about, what happens if he's been bullied at school? I mean, if he suffers physical pain, he'll say pupa. You may not know where he's suffering the pupa, where it's emanating from, but what about the psychological pain that he may suffer now or in the future? If he's been bullied at school, if he's been hit, you will not necessarily know. So that's a bugbear that we suffer and we have to deal with somehow. But generally, he's well behaved, and he is, as I say, he's well behaved. But even when he's happy, in other words, when he's not in meltdown territory, he will behave rather bizarrely to you. This can have an effect, particularly I find, certainly not in Gibraltar or even in Spain, but in other places we've been to, and with teenagers, they will laugh at him. And it's something which you could say you learn to live with or you deal with, but the reality is you don't. On many occasions, I'm not a violent person by nature, but my instinct wants me to go up to them and whack them across the face, if I could. That's Margot there and Lucia. The other thing which does surface once in a while is emotion. And thankfully it hasn't surfaced in this talk, but no guarantees that it won't. Because, when he does suffer a meltdown, on many occasions you do feel like melting down yourself. I'll need to move on. I've got 5 minutes left, and I need to speak about my father. One of the things that bothers me now more and more is the fact that I can't have a normal conversation with my son. And that's the same with Dad, unfortunately. And, in relation to Dad, sorry, I'm just going to do that. And I'd say he's actually a very sociable child because, as I said, we are a big family. So that's only some of his cousins. And it's inevitable that he would be sociable, Sorry, that's Dad as a boxer. I would never, ever, ever, ever have imagined that I would see my dad the way he is now. He is a shadow of his former self. This man was a strong man, both physically as a boxer, He's the one on the right, always in command, a leader almost by nature, and he's now, he's not like that. Siempre ha sido muy presumido, as you can see in these photographs, and like autism, it's robbed you of those conversations. However, unlike autism, with Dad, you find that his eyes are now lifeless. And there are moments when he does connect, and you really need to grab those moments. I can give you one or two anecdotes, depending on the time available. I mean, the other day, literally last week, I was with my daughter, and I pointed the iPhone camera at him, and I said, "Venga, Dad, una foto." And he actually sort of did a smile, as in sort of a 1950s pin-up boy type of thing, Dean Martin, and I could not believe it, and you see it in the eyes. That is what fascinates me. It's all in the eyes. I don't, that dullness, that death that's there, but sometimes it does shine through. So, and there you have it. That's him there about 4 or 5 years ago, muy enterado with his etiquette and his good manners, and that also shines through. One thing that I'm really grateful to God for is that I do remember the last conversation I had with him, the last coffee. It's quite odd, actually, the last lunch. The last conversation, I can tell you, was on Friday the 13th, unlucky for some, of April 2018. He was lying in the hospital bed at St. Bernard's Hospital for a routine procedure, and we talked about my possible return to politics. I won't tell you what he said. And it's that was the last proper conversation I had with him, and he contracted urine tract infection, and then that was it. From there, within a week, he was in Hillsides, and he's been at Hillsides since, and getting from bad to worse. But again, as I say, his character does shine through on occasions. He will harangue. Maybe less so now, but there was a point in time 4 or 5 months ago when he would harass and harangue the carers, telling them that he had to go to a meeting to his beloved Rock Hotel, of which he was manager for 22 years and worked there for 40 years, or with clenched fist he would want to go for one of the carers. So that's Dad through and through. I'm going to try and get through this. And I've got 2 minutes left. I'm sorry if I've spoken too fast, do forgive me, but I was very conscious of the time, and for these things I'm a bit of a stickler. I've realized now I've got more time than I thought. And so I'm going to quote you this. And this is a poem, or maybe I shouldn't. Yes? The emotion is there. So a breakdown is fine? Yes. Okay. Hopefully, with the help of the one above, I'll get through it. Okay, I think this is the last one. So, this was inspired, shall I say, not penned, by my sister Noelle. And, okay. Well, you can read it. What I would say about emotion, and it didn't happen when I was talking about John, and that's probably because I've lived with this for the last 13 years. With Dad, it's different. So, but I'll get through it. So majestic, because you probably can't read it, can you? Anyway, I've changed the words slightly, because I thought one of them was a bit unfair. So majestic he sits on his throne, paying his bills in his lair, which we call home, firm but yet so kind, sparring with my nephew, that's Marco, by the way. Where is his mind? Why, how, when, what? His mind is lost, I feel distraught. His old present, but not in his mind. Hey. Oh, yeah. Sorry. A vessel so mighty, but what's inside? The king of the jungle who once heard his roar, and now he smiles, sweetly staring at the door. 2 more sentences. Where is my hero, my lion, my king? Alzheimer's has robbed him of his boxing ring. Sorry. I think I'm done. As Julian said, it's I can tell you, thank you. It's so much easier talking about the economy and the debt and Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much.